What's going on, everyone? Championship Vid here, back at it again. And in today's video, I'm gonna go over what I did to recover my hamstring and run in full speed within 18 days. Let's get to it. All right, so before we get started, let me tell you that everybody's a little different. You have to understand what type of hamstring injury you have, like what grade and where it's at. Mine was a little bit lower and it wasn't a high grade. So before you get started with anything, make sure you talk to a professional, go to the doctor, do what you need to do your due diligence, right? Me personally, I've been through it. I know my body pretty well, as well as I know the anatomy, being a strength and conditioning coach, and me enjoying it. I study this all the time, so I'm able to tweak things and adjust them for my own benefit as well as my athletes and clients, right? All right, so when the injury first happened, the first thing I did, which is one of the things I don't do unless it's something really hurt, I iced my hamstring. And for the first 2 days, that's what I did. I iced and compressed, ice and compress. So ice, compress, and elevate, right? So I followed the RICE principle: rest, ice, compression, elevation. And I only did that for 2 days. Some people live and die by that and they do it for a whole month until they feel 100%. No, that's not what I'm about. At least I feel like that'll be a hindrance, right? So I did that for the first 2 days. By the second day, which was the 13th, the injury happened on the 11th. The 13th, I'm walking. I went on a walk, no jogging, just light walk around the track, 10 to 15 minute walk, right? And I actually posted a video about that. That was when I posted the video on why do I still run. Now, this is kind of where it deviates from what most people would do. On the 14th, I was doing a lift. Yes, I was doing a lift, all right? Now, this is kind of how I did it. I did it at a range that I didn't feel any discomfort or pain, as well as the percentage was much lower than what my max is, right? I also didn't use any eccentric. All I did was concentric lifting, all right? I even did some plyometrics, all right? The reason that I do this is because I want my CNS, since it's still fired up and working, I want to be explosive. Why would I avoid explosion when I can still do it? I feel like that's gonna elongate the process and time for me to be able to run fast again. Okay, so that was my reasoning behind it. Now, with the hamstring, I'm not stretching it. I don't want to do any stretching to it, at least not at this time. This is 3 days after the injury, but I do want to get it moving. So I also did some leg curls with it. Very, very light. I used a machine and I only did a few pounds. I did body weight leg curls, held it up, and then I did machine leg curls with very lightweight. Following this, the next day, I did a little foam rolling. This is within 5 days. So this is the 15th. I'm able to get in there a little bit. I can, massage it a little bit. I don't want any scar tissue building up, at least not too much. And stretching is out of the picture at this time. On the 16th, that's when I went back and did some more training. Concentric, of course, not to the point where I feel my hamstring and I'm not doing any of the eccentric work. Now, like I said, eccentric is going to be a place that you're going to feel more of the pain. If you go and do any ballistic type lifts, you're going to more than likely feel your hamstring working. That's not what I wanted. That's not what I think most people want, especially within a week of a hamstring injury. So I stayed away from that. Even though I stayed away from it, I still want to be fast. Like I said, if my goal is to be explosive and powerful, I don't want to deviate too far away from it. I want to do as much as I can without hurting myself. So what did I do? I did some lunges, nothing more, like I said, nothing ballistic. I also did do some med ball throw. I'm staying away from soreness and discomfort, but I still am being explosive. Notice that I'm still trying to follow my training days. So I'm still trying to go moderate intensity 3 times a week, right? So you'll look at it, it'll be probably a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday, depending on what the schedule is and depending on my travel schedule as well. So this, and also depending on what is the focus of the day. You'll notice on this day as well, I did a bike. I went fast. I went as fast as I could because that was a speed endurance day for me. So I didn't want to go away from that and I didn't want to lose too much on it. Now, of course, it's not the exact same as running. Running is going to be a lot more difficult, a lot different, but it still gives me a little bit of that stimulus and that adaptation in my body. I wanted to test the hamstring out some. So the same time that I did the bike, I did straight leg bounds. Nothing too crazy, still at a lower percentage. I like to go between 60 to 80%. So straight leg bound, seeing what do I feel anything with the hamstrings? And I actually didn't feel anything at all going straight. The only time I would feel it would be when I'm trying to extend. So that lets you know pretty much where the issue is the end of the part where the eccentric happens. So when I'm extending, that's when I feel any discomfort. All right, so now we're a week out. This is the 18th. This is when I feel comfortable. I feel like, okay, well, it's just a little tightness. That's when I can start working and stretching a little bit if I like. I still don't think I'm doing too much of like a yoga stretch. It's just something light. But the main thing is making sure none of that scar tissue is holding me back. So I do voodoo floss or compression. So compression works really good because it breaks all that stuff down, and then from there it gets more blood circulation into there, more blood flow in there. So that's what I ended up doing. And I also did a variation of leg curls. So at this point, I'm like, I want to test out my leg. Everybody will be a little different depending on what your pain tolerance is or what your strength is. So for me, I did assisted. Then from there, I went and did double leg without the hip extension, and then I did double leg, and then I did eccentric single leg. So I progressed my way into seeing where do I feel it? Where does my hamstring feel it? Now, when you're coming back, you are going to feel some type of discomfort in the hamstring, but is it slight discomfort or is it pain? You have to understand the difference, and you have to ease your way into it and not feel anything to the point where you're going to hurt yourself again. And this same time, that's when I was like, okay, well, can I run? Like I said, when you can run, start running a little bit. I knew for a fact I could do the first 2 steps. So it's the first day of the week. This is the 18th. Let me see if I can get my first 2 steps right. Now, of course, if I start accelerating, I'm gonna feel something. So I avoid acceleration fully and just get the first 2 steps. Pop, pop, and cruise it through. And that worked really well for me. It's like the same. I'm still keeping the lifts relative, not too much range of motion going into wherever I don't feel discomfort. This is the 18th. All right. Now, in between, of course, I'm doing stem. I'm doing scraping. I'm doing foam rolling. I'm using the massage gun, the Jaku massage gun. So if anything, make sure you use a good quality one like that one. There's a few other ones as well. Now I'm still testing my tolerance. I'm doing speed drills, light speed drills, just 1 week out. Light speed drills, straight leg, pogos, things like that to maintain that elasticity. You don't want to get completely away from ground contact. Pull is good. The pull is good. The bikes are good, but as soon as you can get to getting on the floor, just of some sort, get on the floor, make sure you get those drills. All right, so now we're a week and a half out. This is the 21st. And at this point, I'm like, I don't want to go too fast, but I want to increase my intensity and my effort. So one way that I'd like to do that is heavy sleds. So the sled is going to be around 70% of my body weight, 70 to 80% of body weight, because it's not going to allow me to move as fast. So if I'm moving too fast, I'll put my hamstring at risk, and I don't want to do that. But I do want to maximize the effort that I'm putting in. So at that point, I did the heavy sleds, and I went and did a med ball toss. Now, the same thing, if I was able to do 2 steps prior, I should be able to do 2 to 3 to 4 steps by this date, which I did. I exploded the ball, and I did the first few steps, no problem. I was able to run around 7-8 meters, no discomfort at all. So by this point, this is the 23rd. On the 23rd, I'm like, okay, well, I'm out of town at this point. I'm in California, and I find the weather is pretty good. I find a grass field in the park, and I'm like, this is the day that I can actually get after it and do my first running session. Now, when you first get into running, I always tell people, don't go right on the track. Don't go on a hard surface, go on a soft surface, something that's gonna give, right? Because it's gonna slow you down and force you to, not necessarily allow you to hurt yourself. So I got on the grass, it was perfectly fine. The percentages that I like to do around 10 sprints, and it tends to be between 40 to 60 yards or meters, depending on how you measured it out. And the percentage is gonna be between 65 to 80%. Once you're able to get to 80% and feel comfortable without any discomfort or anything, no pulling, you'll be good to go. At that point, you should be good to start getting to really true speed work. Now, at this point, I'm continuing everything, still keeping with the same routine, still foam rolling, still doing my mobility at this point, my daily mobility. I did take a quick break for the first week off my daily mobility. I didn't do any of the hamstring stretching part. Then after the first week, I went back and I did throw in some of the dynamic hamstring stretches and the mobility for the hamstring. So that's how I went about it. The first full sprint was on the 27th. So it wasn't a long sprint, it was a short sprint. It was contrast. So I did a heavy sled push followed by a low acceleration. So a 10-yard sprint, right? And this time it was no holds bar, no two steps. This is full out 10-yard sprints, even a little bit more if I was able to get a couple extra steps in there. So no pain, no discomfort, no anything. I felt great. I even was shooting around with my friend back in California and ended up dunking a couple times, just because I felt so springy and explosive. And at this point, this is the 27th. So the 27th, the injury happened on the 11th. So a little over 2 weeks, and I'm already feeling great, feeling explosive. I still feel like I have a slight knot in there at that point. And even so now, I feel it, but it's no pain or discomfort. At that point, it was slight discomfort, but no pain. So I went to go get that looked at on the 1st. But the 1st was my first time fully sprinting. So I had a sprint session with my guy Grayson. I was in Louisiana, and I'm like, okay, I need to go see the massage therapist. At the same time, I need to get this. It'd be great to get a fast session. Now, very careful. You usually want to get your fast session by yourself. More times than not, you would like to get at least one fast session by yourself before you meet with anybody, because it's going to make you compete too much. Now, me and him kept it for short distances. We went 10, 20, 30, and then I think we finished at a 40.
This is going to be the last rep, or next rep. We don't say last rep. Me and Grayson about to get it. You ready, bro?
I'm ready, man. Let's get it.
All right, let's see, man.
And that's the most that I would do, because at that point you're getting to that top end speed, which will allow you to feel how you're going to feel when you're running full speed, but not too much like if you're doing the whole 60 or whatnot. So I just touched full speed and I was like, okay, I'm good. After all that is said and done, I finished, I did that. I was fully explosive within 18 days. I did have my first meet a week and a half after. So the 12th was my first meet. I ran 10.9 into a headwind, which changes to 10.8. I've been around 10.9, 10.8 pace the last couple weeks. I just actually hit a PR and a split of time that equates to me being able to run a 10.6 on a back-to-back meet. And then I hit my fastest 60 split going into the 100. I hit a 6.8 equivalent, 6.84 equivalent, which will be a PR for me. Now, the only thing is, without me running for so long, I haven't got to lengthen out my speed. And that's the only thing that I'm dealing with now. I have the speed. Speed is back now. I finally got my pop back after a couple of weeks. I feel really explosive, powerful. The only problem is that I haven't ran long enough yet. Now, that was the goal when I did hurt myself, that whole month that I was trying to recover, or the whole few weeks I was trying to recover and get back to it. The goal was to start lengthening out my sprint so I'd be ready for outdoor. But, it is what it is. It only took around 3 weeks for me to be able to get back to it, and I only missed around that little bit of time. So within another 3 weeks, I'll be back on track, and I'll be hitting those times I felt like I should have hit. So it's just pushes back a little bit, but I'll be perfectly fine. Now, if you're dealing with the same thing, don't rush it. Take your time, listen to your body. Now, the reason that I'm able to do this and do it the way that I do it is because I actually have the knowledge and I take care of my body very seriously. I go and do my sleep and I do my recovery, so on and so forth. So understand where you're at and what you're doing so that you can optimize your recovery. What I do is undereat, because the calories are going to actually help you recover. I don't want to gain weight while I'm doing this, so I'm gonna cut my calories. One of the worst things you can do that I've seen a lot of people do, and they end up elongating that recovery period and coming back hurt. Eat regular, still train, just don't train in the sprints like you would regularly, right? So that's one of the things that I would say was a biggest game changer. Still continuing to train, figuring out ways to keep my body explosive, as well as, you know, keeping the calories in good quality food, minimize the processed food, minimize the BS foods, and you'll be more than fine. So that was just my journey. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down below. Go ahead. I'm on the gram as well, Instagram, Championship Fit, TikTok. I post on there too, Championship Fit. So if you want to check it out, I post a little more than I do on YouTube. I need to get better at that. But check it out. And yeah, until next time, Championship Fit out. Peace.